and welcome to We Talk, an online talk show that is packed with different views and ideas on issues trending across China. I'm Zheng Chunying in Beijing. Today marks China's National Youth Day. There are about 400 million people under the age of 30 in China, and that is equal to the entire workforce in the United States and Western Europe combined. Undoubtedly, to understand the country in the 21st century, you need to understand the young Chinese. What are some of the core values that they are embracing? How are they adapting to this rapidly changing world? And what about some of the stereotypes that they would like to birth? Well, it's my great pleasure to have three smart young ladies joining me here today, millennials and GenZers. So tell us about yourself.
Hi everyone, my name's Leona Liu. I'm 18 years old. I'm from Beijing, China. I currently study in a boarding school in the US called Pomfret, and I'm a graduating senior this year.
What about you?
Hi, I'm Story Chen, and I graduated from New York University. I'm an independent film director and writer based in Beijing right now.
Welcome, Jane. And then?
Hi, my name is Chen Hao. I'm currently based in Beijing, and I work for a British newspaper.
Okay, so good to have you with us. To help our audience better understand the two generations, I collected some of the judgments and assumptions from foreign media and netizens about our lifestyle, work value, and even consumption habits. So what we're going to do today is to address them one by one, okay? So first of all, assumption number one, Chinese students are test-taking machines and are all good at maths. Well, it's a stereotype that has long been attached to Chinese people. What do you think? Let's start with the only student here.
I think compared to the students in my American school, Chinese students are better at tests and math. However, that's not to generalize all the students. I think the reason is because of the different educational systems. And when I was in the middle school called Tsinghua University, it's an affiliated middle school, we care more about academic performance. We were very eager to learn knowledge from different subjects. And I think I learned my problem-solving skills from here. When I went to the US, it's more about kind of athletic performance and creative thinking. So I think it's like different dynamics, but all beneficial to students.
I think that, it's like one of my Jewish friends here in Beijing. He always takes issue when Chinese friends tell him, oh, Jewish people are really good with money. I was like, no, I take offense with that. And then people will be like, but that's a good thing. Why are you taking offense to that? And it's like, I think his rhetoric was kind of along mine of like Chinese being really good at test making machines is we need to allow for people to be bad at tests and bad at maths if that's not their industry, if that's not what they're into. And we have a lot of people in China, so there's gonna be people who are better at tests and better at maths than those who aren't. Me personally, not great at taking tests. I don't want to be canceled out as a Chinese person just because I'm not as studious. So I think part of that is allowing for diversity to happen.
Yes, exactly. But for me, I think I've studied abroad, and I think for me, it's really more than an impression. I think our Chinese students or my classmates, they're really better at some tough subjects than other students from other countries. But I think it's not because we are born to be good at those tough subjects, but it's a culture thing because the Confucian culture that shared by many East Asian countries, we value hard work above everything else. For example, if a teacher says to a parent that your child is not good at math, if it's a Western parent, he will probably think that, oh, my kid, it's fine. He's not good at math, but he might be good at art or sports. But if you say the same thing to a Chinese parent, he might say, oh, he's not hardworking, he's lazy. So that's completely different two mindsets. We think that hard work is the most important, whereas the Western parents, they attribute the success and failure of a student to the innate ability. So I think that's also different. We value hard work so much. And the reality is, if you really put enough efforts into whatever even you are not good at, you can make it finally. Yes.
How are you as a parent? Like if your kid is bad at maths, you like
I'm
you
not
just
a
need to
tiger
work harder.
mom.
No?
I'm not a tiger mom. But yeah, I think I think the awareness of competition is instilled like deep in my mind. So honestly speaking, I really expect my kid to be good at math, be good at taking tests.
Right.
We'll see how it goes. All right, so the next assumption, so assumption number one, is the opposite of number one. Number two is the opposite of number one. If your head isn't buried in books, then young Chinese are slackers. Do you agree with that?
Not at all. I think we're very hardworking and very realistic because nowadays there's more and more competition, like you said, and everyone has more opportunity to kind of have an education. So the standards have been risen.
Okay. Let me give you some background information. One of the examples cited when raising that assumption is that Chinese millennials' rebellion against 996 work mode, which means to work from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., 6 days a week. Do you think it's enough to say that Chinese younger generations are getting lazier?
We want to be lazier, but we can't.
Yes,
like you said,
yeah.
like it's embedded in us, the competition. There are times when I get asked by friends of mine who were not born in China. They may be like American Chinese, but then they don't quite understand why it's built into the system, this level of competition. And the example I would give them is when I was doing military training in university, which I don't know if you guys did, but I went to a Chinese school. I had to line up to brush my teeth in the morning. It's just everywhere I go, even if it's traveling or taking the subway, I'm well aware of opportunities out there and resources, but also the amount of people who are competing for the same things with me. And I just think that that sort of day-to-day exposure really shapes the way we think.
Well, I think it's not about like we are getting lazier, but more about we are more aware of what kind of life that we are aiming for. For example, people are aware that they should have their own leisure time, they should have their time to do something that they like, so they're not agreeing to the system like you have to get off work after 9 p.m. or something. They're just more aware of their rights to some extent, I would say.
Yeah. We're conscious of the equal rights.
Quality of life.
Yeah, and fortunately we're entitled to advocate for a better working environment, which is a good thing, I think. And assumption number three is about our consumption habits. Younger Chinese tend to spend rather than save.
This is a tricky one. So I think my parents save more money on buying vegetables, that if egg price went from 2.5 to 3, they'd be like, oh, I can't take it. This is impossible. But then they'd spend money on like a really expensive watch, which I would never do because I spend more money on eggs and groceries and things because I don't want to go out of my way to argue down prices. But when I wear something, it's just because I like it. I don't really care if it comes with value or a brand or anything. And so most of the things that I buy, clothing-wise, way cheaper than them. But then my spending, like day-to-day spending, is more expensive. So I think it's a little mixed.
I think it comes to how you value a person's quality of life. For example, I might get some really expensive clothes or something that I really like, but on the otherwise, I might just save all the rest of my money to myself. I'm not a person who tend to spend a lot. But there are also my friends who would love to spend a lot of money on eating, like going to like afternoon tea, things like that. I think it's just different ways of living and different choices they make, and that comes to how much they spend to their lives.
Yeah, for me, because I'm still a student, I don't really earn any money, so I spend more, but I think it's very easy to fall into prey of the consumption patterns because of food deliveries, online shopping is just so convenient. But on the other hand, something like thrifting has become more popular in China, and apps like Xianyu, which sell stuff secondhand, is really popular among my friends and I. We both sell and buy clothes from it, so we're more kind of sensitive to the prices.
But how do you think did we get that reputation?
I think China is the biggest market for luxurious goods.
Yes.
So far, it's like since 2020 or even earlier. And I think my non-Chinese friends, what they have difficulty understanding is how, say, if you go to Harbin and you meet a nurse who works in a public hospital who makes 3,000 kwai, she would still save up to buy a Chanel bag just because she feels like that means a lot more to her. And I think for a lot of people outside of China, they don't understand how you would save up to buy something way out of your sort of price range. different values, I think.
Yes, and also I think it also depends on which city you're from, which city you live in. For the smaller cities where the life cost is relatively low, I think people have little hesitation about spending their money, right?
And one thing I just thought is, I believe more and more young Chinese people, they tend to spend money to get happiness or pleasure. They don't care that much about how much money I have in my bank, but rather than how much pleasure this money can give to me right now. So I guess that's one of the ways of how they value they don't care how much money they have in the bank in general, but they rather spend that to give the pleasure or what they care right now at this moment.
What do you look for when you spend your money?
Not a
you're
house.
buying?
Also because you can't afford one in Beijing. I think some of the consumption habits that I've garnered living in a country with Taobao and various shopping platforms, and China being the world factory, is sort of short-term pleasure. Like buying earrings and things that will bring me immediate happiness.
All right, so let's check out this fourth assumption, which is an offshoot of number 3, is that younger Chinese prefer domestic brands. Is that true?
I would say it's not exactly a preference. It's more like before, maybe a couple of years ago, we are not aware of how good or how efficient our domestic brands could be. But now we are realizing that, and we're recognizing that improvement, and we are considering both domestic and foreign brands on the same level or same standard.
Yeah, I don't think Chinese youths go into markets saying, oh, that's from America, I can never buy that, and that's from Australia, maybe I can think about buying that. It's not how our mindset works. I think what's happened is just being the world factory for so many years, the quality of a lot of domestic goods have gone up, especially in terms of like clothing, makeup and things, and people are starting to recognize that. It doesn't mean that we, get allergic when we see foreign products. It's just that we have more options and better options now.
Yes. We have less admiration for foreign brands because we've grown up in an era with so much exposure to Western brands, unlike our parents' generation, right? They've grown up in an era with so limited exposure of the outside world. So to them, whatever comes from a foreign country is luxury, or even a symbol of social status or wealth. But for me, for our generation, it's completely different, right? I think what we focus more, instead of the brand itself, we focus more on the experience and the self-expression, right? We care more about if it fits our tastes, or if we like the product or not, or the quality of the product.
It's true.
I actually tried a few makeup brands by domestic brands, but the thing is, I realized it really impressed me because the quality or the effect when I put them on my face is not that much different from luxury brand or foreign brands, but the price is much, much cheaper. So I think that's how the domestic brands are actually getting more and more consumers to buy them, because they have really great effect, but also very, very good price for all the consumers.
And talking about buying domestic brands, here comes the next assumption, because many foreign media or netizens, they think that we're getting more patriotic, we're getting more proud of our country, and because, or as a result of being brainwashed, or we're blindly patriotic. Do you agree with that?
I would say definitely no. I would say with the information that we younger generation have nowadays, we're very clear of where we are at, and we've seen how much we've gone from maybe 3 or 4 decades ago. We see where we were and we see where we are right now. So we have a really comprehensive and objective view of how our country is doing right now.
And also the way that China's role in the world has also changed. I think when my grandparents were around, China wasn't really that big or that important of a player in sort of global politics or economy. We're still like striving to catch up with the rest of the world. And now, even when you turn like a foreign newspaper or look at forums, China is always mentioned to some degree in various industries. And so I think it's possible that Chinese youths feel more of the need to defend or to clear up misunderstandings, possibly, in a world where China plays a very big role and everyone's talking about it.
So, and now let's talk about the next assumption, which is fewer young Chinese are now marrying. Well, marriage, that's a huge topic.
The idea about marriage has changed a great deal.
Yes.
Because like for me or for many of my friends, even as girls, we are not as eager to be married because we don't, like for me, I don't take getting married as a really important or necessary or essential step or goal of my life. I would say I'm still very romantic about love. If I find someone that I'm comfortable with and we're very in love, we might get married. But if not, I'm fine being single. So that's not giving me any pressure. And fortunately, in my family, my parents are not giving me that pressure either.
Marriage is no longer a must for, especially for many girls or women. A man is not a must. It's not a need to have. It is not a must to have, but it's a good to have.
Yes.
Right. So that's a change in mindset. What about you?
Are
you too young to think about that?
I personally don't know anyone, like my friends that's married, but I've heard their opinions on marriage because there's more dating apps and the media and shows talking. We see different types of people and hear a lot of dating advice. So our standards have definitely risen. But yeah, we're like hopeless romantics as well. So if we actually find someone, we'll probably marry more easily.
What about you?
I think the difference when you talk about marriage in China or in Asia, really, and in non-Asian countries, is that child is attached to the idea of marriage. That if you're telling your parents, I'm marrying this guy, but we're not having children, they're like, what the hell? What is the point? This is so your kid can have a hookah. Like, what is the point of you getting married if you're not going to have, one or two babies? And their favorite phrase is, if everyone's like you, then humanity will no longer exist. But I think, people of my parents' age, if you look overseas, there are still a lot of people who choose not to have children.
Yes.
And then potentially partner up for life or potentially marry. And I think China's going through that phase of redefining marriage, and
Yes.
maybe marriage does not have to be attached to having a child together, or a partnership doesn't have to be attached to a piece of paper. I know that legally within the law, registering hukou and stuff, even if you're a single mom now, you can register your kid, and a lot of changes that help with pushing the redefinition of that concept. And I think that's why on the superficial end, you see, marriage rates have really gone down. I don't think it's, people don't want to partner up anymore, but it's just sort of rethinking, do we have to, put something on the cover?
Yes, definitely. I think our country is embracing more diversities in many aspects, and marriage is one of them. There are so many options and possibilities for our younger generations, and we don't have to. Marriage is not a must. And also, I think it comes to a fundamental question of the sense of security. So, marriage, there's a basic assumption that marriage brings a sense of security. But in fact, maybe it's the opposite. Many people find out that it might be the opposite. Figures show that in Beijing, Shanghai, and many big cities, the divorce rate, those 60% of those who choose to marry, like me, end up with divorce.
Just have a more clearer view of what they want, like what they seek for this kind of relationship. For example, they like maybe 20 years ago or a couple decades ago, matchmakers partner two people up, and then there you go, you're a couple. But now we take more time, take it slower to find a person to shape up to each other or something like that. So we are more careful about choosing or finding what we want. I think that's a good thing.
And also from the government level, that they are also embracing the diversity and encouraging people to embrace more diversified lifestyles. And so that's why we see so many new policies implemented. Yeah, I think which is good thing. Yeah, and also,
Women are making more money, so to speak.
Yes.
Like it's not just women becoming directors and anchors, which is brilliant. But also, if you look at grassroots levels, migrant women that I've spoken to, their parents would be like, you cannot, divorce from your husband because they're an important source of income. You will not be able to afford that child by yourself. And a lot of the times, the women will stay behind to take care of the children, while the men go out to Guangzhou or wherever. But now, both the wife and the husband are out there working, and she's saying, well, if I really don't like him and he's gambling or whatever it is, I can take care of the child myself because I make money now. I think that's been a generational change that's sort of significant to note.
yes, I can strongly feel that because many of my friends, female friends, they prioritize work or career development than marriage or partnership, which is brilliant. All right, so from the values that our younger generations uphold to how are we going to make an impact to the rest of the world? I think for those of you who are watching our show today, I hope that you come with a better and more realistic understanding about the young Chinese, which perceptions that might be different from what you previously believed. All right, so glad that we had this talk today, and thanks so much for watching. And feel free to leave your comment on any social media platform of CGTN China 24. I'm Zheng Chunying in Beijing, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.